Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're doing well. We are again outside, which I hope will be outside for the remainder of the season. However, today we are bracing this wind. It's really windy coming from the north. It gets really bad. But anyway, I was noticing over the past week that our hydrangeas are budding up. So it's a good time to get them pruned. I wanted to talk to you though about the different types of hydrangeas, how to prune the different types of hydrangeas, and when. So we'll go over that today, and I have 3 different types of hydrangeas on this property, and so I'll be able to go over those with you and talk about the ones that I don't have in the property. This is an arborescence type hydrangea, and arborescence is just the smooth flower that's on top. And so you can see last year's spent bloom. It's very fragile now, but it's a smooth or rounded over type of bloom that you're going to get. This one in particular is a white bloom, so no matter what kind of soil that you plant it in, it's not going to change color. That's a different type of hydrangea. But this one in particular, the arborescens, they bloom on new wood, and so you're able to really cut it back. You don't want to like take it down to the bottom, but you can take it down a good 6 inches or more is what I would say, but take it down to a good strong bud. Now this one, it doesn't have huge buds yet, but it's okay. You know, you can see where it's really gotten bigger and where it really is fatter, where the blooms are and the buds are going to come out. So I'm not going to take it down super far, also because it's new and it's very, very young, but they all will appreciate a good pruning. So I'm going to take it down to about here, right above a bud. And the same thing with our roses that we talked about last year. Zoe, you also want to check for anything that's diseased or dead or damaged. That's something that you want to watch for too. You also want to make sure that nothing's going to be rubbing, and so these ones are rubbing right here, so I'm going to take it down to about here so that it has a chance to grow out this way instead of in. So that's how I'm going to handle this particular hydrangea, and then we'll get it fertilized and we'll be done and we can move on to the next type. Now I'm using the Rose Tone organic fertilizer. Also, it's good for flowering shrubs, woody flowering shrubs. So like roses, hydrangeas, they really like this fertilizer. And again, like before with the roses, you just want to put it in the drip line, which is the outer area of your plant, because the roots grow and they travel, so you want to be able to get it to the roots. Give it some more. And you just kind of scratch it in. And we're expecting rain, so I'm not, and we had a pretty good storm, so it's pretty wet, so I'm not going to water it today. But also on the back here, it will explain the drip line and how much to put in. So it's all on the back of this bag, which is fantastic. All right, we are done with this one, with the arborescens, and now we're going to move on to the paniculatas. Okay, so this is an example of the hydrangea standard, so it's more in a tree form. This is the Pinky Winky, which I love that name, it's so fun. And this one has a very different bloom. This one is a Hydrangea paniculata, so it has a panicle bloom like this. And this one also blooms on new wood, so you can really cut it back, which I'm going to cut it back quite drastically, and not to fear, it will bounce back and it'll be beautiful. But it starts out like this, you know, really nice white creamy color, and then it starts to turn pink as it ages, and it is just so pretty. And then like right here is an example of crossing over stems that will rub. It's very thin and spindly anyway, so I'm going to take that out. But if it was bigger, like some of these other stems, I would really cut it back, because you don't want them to be hitting each other, because then that's how damage happens. It's a pretty considerable cutback, and I'm really excited to be cutting it back because it was looking really bad. I've got a couple more of these paniculatas to do, but then I will take you to our tiny tough stuff. It's a Japanese hydrangea, and we'll talk about that one in just a second. So this one right here is a different type of hydrangea. It's a serrata type, which means that it grows on old wood. So what that means is that you don't want to really prune this at all if you can help it. If you need to downsize it for whatever reason, then you want to, as soon as it blooms in the spring and the blooms are done, cut it back and then don't touch it. Because when it grows on old wood, that means that last spring, after, it gets confusing. Last spring, when I planted it, it had already set its blooms for this spring. So if you're cutting this back willy-nilly whenever you want, you are definitely, you're sacrificing, possibly sacrificing blooms that it has already set last year for this spring. So basically, I'm not going to do anything to this shrub because it already has all of its foliage and it will already have set its buds last season. So I'm not going to touch it, and it's fine where it's growing right now. That one, however, I am going to transplant, so you'll see that you'll see me do that. So on to transplanting. So here's the spot that I'm going to put it, kind of in this corner. Later on, not today, but at some point this season, I will cut it out as far as, you know, make sure that there's no grass growing in here, cut out the edges. So this is where the door swings out. So it would be like from here. I kind of like my semicircle gardens. Makes it more interesting. And so I'll be able to put the hydrangea here and then maybe dot it with some little things, whether they're annuals or perennials, I don't know yet. So that's the fun of gardening. You just don't know. And if something doesn't work for you in your garden anymore, get rid of them. Seriously, it's okay. Give yourself permission to create a space that you love, that is there to give you joy and peace. Gardening for me is soul fulfilling and peaceful, and it just really, it gives me a lot of pride. But you know what? Things happen, trees fall down that you absolutely love. Plant something different, you know? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Okay, so I have the hole dug and I have the plant taken out. And there's two amendments that I want to show you that I use in this garden in particular, and then one for every plant that I put in the ground. This one is also from Espoma. It is a garden gypsum. It says it's a soil conditioner. Basically, I throw this in before I plant anything in this ground because it's rocky and it's very heavy clay. So I want to use this gypsum to help to break it down, make it much nicer to work with, loosen it up, that kind of thing. And so I always throw a pretty big handful in of this stuff. It's amazing stuff. The other thing I always use when I'm planting something new or, you know, transplanting in this case, is a biotone starter fertilizer. I don't know what I ever did without it or how anything ever grew before I found out about this. But basically it helps stimulate root growth, and so it'll make it a stronger plant, whether it's annuals, perennials. It's also organic, so you can use it with your vegetables, shrubs, trees, flowers, everything. Everything I plant, this goes in. If I don't put this in first, they both go in at the same time. So today, because I'm transplanting it, I won't need the rose tone fertilizer because it'll have the biotone in it, which is, it will just help the whole plant. So it's not necessary to double up when you're using the biotone to get it planted in the ground. Okay, so I'm going to get that started, and then we'll get her in, and then I will water in this shrub because I want to make sure there's no air pockets. When you water it in, you're settling the soil so that it comes around those roots, because air pockets are a bad thing for plants. It will really stunt the growth of the plant, and that's not something you want to deal with. So, all right, so we're going to start with some garden gypsum, and I just kind of put it all around because we're dealing with rocks and hard packed clay. Throw some of that in. And my biotone. And you can mix it all in there if you want. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's fine. All right, so now, yeah, this might need help. Okay, so I didn't think I had enough room, and now I have too much room, so I need to bring it back out again. Put some soil in. And it's not going to hurt to put a little more gypsum and biotone. Okay. There we go. Let me throw it in. And then move the soil around it. As you can see, lots of rocks. Lots. Ugh, trying to get them out of the ground is not easy. Okay, whoop, another rock. Okay, and get some water. All right. Whew. Okay, so we're all transplanted, and it should really take off and do well in this spot. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. Don't forget to hit subscribe and tell me what you think of it. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.